The reluctant attendee. Alexander Morgan adjusted his simple black mask with obvious discomfort. The Grand Avenue Museum's annual Masquerade charity auction buzzed around him like an agitated beehive, filled with Charleston's elite in elaborate costumes and exaggerated laughter. At 41, Alexander preferred the silent company of damaged artwork to these social circuses. But tonight was different. His closest friend, Julian, had practically begged him to attend, claiming the museum needed his expertise for their upcoming restoration project. "You can't hide in your studio forever," Julian had told him, "not since Rebecca." Rebecca. Even 4 years after their divorce, her name still caused a small twitch in his jaw. She'd called his devotion to restoration work an obsession with fixing broken things instead of moving forward. Perhaps she wasn't entirely wrong. Alexander sipped his champagne, calculating how soon he could politely leave. The auction items, mostly modern art pieces, held little appeal for a man who specialized in breathing life back into Renaissance paintings and forgotten masterpieces. He'd already made his obligatory donation. "You look like a man plotting his escape," a voice said beside him. He turned to find a woman studying him, her eyes bright behind a delicate violet mask adorned with subtle silver detailing. Her dark hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and her simple navy blue dress stood out for its elegance amid the gaudy costumes surrounding them. "Is it that obvious?" he asked. "To a fellow escape artist, yes." She smiled, gesturing toward the painting they both stood before, an abstract piece with chaotic red slashes across a white canvas. "What do you think of this one?" "Honestly, I think the artist might have been angry at their canvas." She laughed, a genuine sound that seemed almost out of place in the affected atmosphere of the event. "I was thinking the same thing, but I believe there's passion in those strokes. Anger, yes, but also something raw and unfinished." Alexander studied her more carefully. Most attendees at these events spoke about art in rehearsed phrases they'd heard from critics or dealers. "You speak like someone who knows the language of brushstrokes," he observed. "I teach art history at the university. Recently moved here from Boston." She extended her hand. Well, isn't the point of these masks to remain mysterious?" "Alexander Morgan," he replied, taking her hand. "I've never been good at playing by the rules." Her eyes widened slightly. "The restoration artist? Your work on the Bellini altarpiece was remarkable." For the first time that evening, Alexander felt genuinely engaged. "You know my work?" "I've followed it for years. I wrote my dissertation on conservation techniques in Italian Renaissance art." She smiled, a slight dimple appearing on her left cheek. "I suppose I've just revealed too much about myself. And yet I still don't know your name." "Let's save something for the mystery, shall we?" she suggested, her eyes twinkling. "Tell me about your current project instead." They moved through the gallery together, champagne glasses forgotten, as they discussed pigment degradation and canvas restoration. Alexander found himself describing his techniques, challenges he'd faced with particularly damaged works, stories he normally reserved for his journals. She listened intently, asking questions that revealed a deep understanding of his craft. "Most people's eyes glaze over when I talk about this," he admitted, after realizing they'd been conversing for nearly an hour. "Most people haven't spent years studying the hidden stories beneath the visible paint," she replied. "There's something magical about revelation, don't you think? Uncovering what time has obscured." Alexander felt something shift inside him, a rusty door opening after years of disuse. When the string quartet began playing, the woman in the violet mask turned toward the music, her profile illuminated by the chandeliers, and Alexander was struck with a sudden desire to capture this moment, to preserve it like one of his paintings. "You would
brushstrokes of a new beginning. The Vermeer study restoration became their shared sanctuary, a small, temperature-controlled room adjacent to the conservation lab where they worked side by side 4 afternoons a week. Alexander focused on stabilizing the crumbling edges of paint, while Sophia meticulously researched pigment compositions to ensure their restoration matched Vermeer's original intent. "It's definitely authentic," Sophia confirmed after 3 weeks of careful analysis. "An early study for Woman in Blue reading a letter. The provenance traces back to my father's collection. He acquired it at auction in the 90s, but never completed authentication before his illness." "Is that why you came to Charleston? To find it?" Alexander asked, adjusting the microscope to examine a particularly delicate area. Sophia nodded. "Partly. When Dad died, I discovered notes about sending it here for assessment. After everything with David, it gave me purpose to track it down." Their conversations flowed easily during these sessions, ranging from technical discussions about restoration techniques to gradually more personal revelations. Sophia described her childhood in Boston, surrounded by art and artists. Alexander shared stories of his travels through Italy studying conservation methods. Neither rushed toward intimacy, both recognizing the value of patience. When their hands occasionally brushed while working, the contact lingered a little longer each time. Outside the restoration room, they began cautiously exploring Charleston together. Saturday morning walks through the historic district, quiet dinners in tucked-away restaurants, a boat ride through the harbor at sunset. Alexander discovered Sophia's infectious laugh when truly amused. Sophia learned that Alexander could name nearly every architectural style and period from a building's smallest details. "You see the world differently," she told him one evening as they sat on a bench overlooking the water. "You notice what others miss." "Occupational hazard," he replied with a smile. "When you spend your days looking for hairline cracks in centuries-old paint, you develop an eye for detail." "It's more than that." She turned toward him, her expression thoughtful. "You see the beauty in what's broken." 6 weeks into their collaboration, Director Carmichael invited them both to dinner at his home, ostensibly to discuss the restoration's progress. Over dessert, he revealed his true motive. "The board has approved a permanent conservation center here at the museum," he announced, beaming. "We'd like you both to consider heading it, joint appointment, restoration, and academic research." Later that night, walking Sophia to her apartment, Alexander felt a new tension between them. The joint opportunity hung in the air, unaddressed. "Would you consider staying in Charleston?" he asked as they reached her door. "Would you want me to?" Her voice was carefully neutral. Alexander took a deep breath. "Very much, but only if it's what you want to." She unlocked her door, hesitated, then turned to face him fully. "Would you like to come in for tea?" His apartment reflected her perfectly. Walls covered with books and artwork, a small easel by the window, vintage furniture arranged for comfort rather than show. While she prepared tea, Alexander noticed a canvas turned to face the wall. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward it. Sophia paused, then nodded. "It's not finished." Alexander carefully turned the canvas to reveal a portrait of himself working, completely absorbed in restoration. The painting captured something essential about him, his focus, his gentleness with damaged things, the slight furrow in his brow as he concentrated. "This is how you see me?" he asked softly. "Yes." She handed him a cup of tea, her eyes not leaving his face. "Is it accurate?" "It's more than accurate. It's—" He searched for the right word. "Revealing." That's what portraits should do. Reveal something essential. She set her own cup down untouched. "Alexander, before we discuss Carmichael's offer, there's something I need to say." His expression remained open, attentive. "I ran from you because I was afraid, not just of David, but of what I felt when we talked. After David, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone affect me that way again." I took a steadying breath. "But I've spent months painting you, thinking about you, and I realized I'm more afraid of not knowing what might have been between us." Alexander set his cup beside hers, moving closer until he could see the flecks of gold in her amber eyes. "And what do you think might be between us?" "Something worth restoring," she whispered. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished, and traced the line of her cheek with his fingertips. "Restoration requires patience and trust. And skill," she added, leaning slightly into his touch, "and the belief that what's damaged can be made whole again, though never exactly as it was before." "I don't want either of us to be what we were before," Alexander said, his voice low. "I like who we're becoming together." The kiss, when it finally came, felt like the closing of a circle begun that night beneath the museum chandeliers. Sophia's hands found their ways to his shoulders as his arms encircled her waist, drawing her closer. The kiss deepened, months of longing and uncertainty dissolving into certainty. When they finally parted, breathless, Sophia rested her forehead against his. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes?" Alexander repeated, a question in his voice. "Yes to staying in Charleston. Yes to the Conservation Center." Her lips curved into a smile. "Yes to us." In the months that followed, they established the Charleston Museum Conservation Center together, combining Alexander's technical expertise with Sophia's academic connections. The Vermeer study, fully restored, became the centerpiece of their first exhibition on authentication and restoration techniques. They moved slowly, deliberately, building their relationship with the same care they showed to fragile paintings. Alexander learned that Sophia sang softly while she painted. Sophia discovered that Alexander could cook magnificent Italian food, but couldn't bake to save his life. They argued over conservation techniques and made up by candlelight, each disagreement teaching them more about compromise. 1 year after their reunion, Alexander took Sophia back to the gallery where they'd first examined the Vermeer together. The museum was closed to the public, but Director Carmichael had given them after-hours access to celebrate the Conservation Center's first year. As they stood before the painting, now glowing with renewed life, thanks to their careful restoration, Alexander reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. "I had something made for you," he said, opening it to reveal a delicate silver pendant. It was a miniature artist's palette, with tiny gemstones representing dabs of paint, sapphire, emerald, ruby, and amber. At its center sat a perfect pearl. "Vermeer's favorite," she whispered, touching the pearl. "For the luminosity. For the woman who brought light into my life, who taught me that some masterpieces aren't hanging on walls, but standing right beside you." As he fastened the necklace around her throat, Sophia turned in his arms. "I love you," she said, the words simple but profound. "And I love you." He kissed her again, under the watchful eyes of centuries of painted figures who had, like them, found ways to capture moments of perfect connection amidst life's imperfections. Outside the museum windows, Charleston glowed in twilight, its historic buildings and cobblestone streets a testament to the beauty that survives across time. Inside, two people who had found each other by chance, lost each other by choice, and found each other again by design, stood surrounded by art that had outlived its creators. A reminder that love, like art, could endure if properly restored and carefully tended. "What comes next?" Sophia asked, her head resting against his shoulder. Alexander smiled, thinking of the small house he'd found overlooking the harbor, with perfect light for a shared studio. "Another restoration," he murmured against her hair, "the most important one yet." Developing light. The week leading to the software launch passed in a blur of final preparations and tense interactions. Maya and Liam maintained professional courtesy, but the warmth between them had frozen into formality. The night before the launch, Maya stayed late in her studio, organizing the exhibition that would showcase images created with the new software. Her photographs would be featured prominently, a fact that should have filled her with pride, but instead left her hollow. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Rebecca Porter stood in the doorway, elegant in a tailored suit, her blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon. "May I come in?" she asked, not waiting for an answer. Maya nodded stiffly. "What can I do for you?" Rebecca surveyed the studio with clinical interest. "I wanted to see what all the fuss was about." Her gaze settled on Maya. "You're not what I expected."
And what did you expect? Someone less substantial. Rebecca picked up a print from Maya's desk, a photograph of Liam taken when he thought no one was watching, his expression unguarded and gentle. You actually care about him. I do, Maya admitted. Though I'm not sure why I'm telling you this. Rebecca set the photograph down carefully. Liam and I were together for 3 years. I thought I knew him completely, she paused, until his parents died. He shut down, buried himself in work. When I tried to reach him, he pushed me away. Maya remained silent. I didn't end our engagement, Rebecca continued. He did. Said he couldn't give me what I needed. A sad smile crossed her face. He was right. Why are you telling me this? Because you've done what I couldn't. You reached him. Rebecca moved toward the door. The board's concerns weren't my doing. I actually defended your work. After Rebecca left, Maya sat in stunned silence. Nothing was as simple as she believed. Not Liam, not Rebecca, not even her own fears. Dawn found her still in the studio, surrounded by the images that told their story. In each one, she could see what had drawn her to Liam. Not his wealth or power, but his hidden depths, his capacity for growth. The launch event began at sunset. The gallery filled with industry leaders, press, and potential clients. Maya moved through the crowd mechanically, explaining her process, accepting compliments. Liam gave a brief but powerful speech about the fusion of technology and art. But his eyes never quite met hers. When the formal presentations ended, Maya slipped away to the rooftop garden, needing air. The city spread before her, lights glimmering like stars fallen to earth. She heard the door open behind her, but didn't turn. You're missing your triumph, Liam said quietly. It's our triumph, Maya corrected. The team's. Liam moved beside her at the railing. The board unanimously approved continuing your position, permanently. I know, Rebecca told me. Surprise flickered across his face. You spoke with Rebecca? She found me, told me some things I needed to hear. Maya finally turned to face him. Why didn't you tell me about your parents, about how they died? Pain shadowed his eyes. It's not something I talk about. Not even with someone you love? Liam's breath caught. Is that what you think? That I love you? I think you could, Maya said softly, if you let yourself. I've spent years building walls. You walked through them like they weren't even there. Is that a bad thing? He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. It's terrifying and exhilarating. I'm still not sure if we can make this work, Maya said honestly. Neither am I, Liam agreed, but I want to try. No more hiding, no more separate lives. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's heart raced, but when he opened it, she saw not a ring, but a key. What's this? A studio space, Liam explained. Not in my building. Your own place with no strings attached. Your talent deserves room to grow, whether we're together or not. Tears filled Maya's eyes at the gesture. He was offering her independence, not possession. And if I want strings? Liam smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him in days. Then we'll create them together, one thread at a time. Maya closed her hand around the key, then reached up to touch his face. I have conditions. Name them. We go slowly. We talk, really talk, and no more secrets. Liam leaned down until their foreheads touched. I agreed to your terms, Ms. Lin. And one more thing, Maya whispered against his lips. I still owe you a suit. I have a better idea, Liam murmured. Keep ruining my suits for the next 50 years. Their kiss was a promise, not of perfection, but of possibility. As they stood together under the vast night sky, Maya realized that true love wasn't about flawless first impressions, but about seeing each other clearly through all the messy collisions that followed. In photography and in life, The most beautiful images emerged in the developing light, when shadows and brightness found their perfect balance.